USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Verizon Small Business Days are here, August 11th through 17th. Book your appointment today to get special deals like a free 5G phone. Still want more? Get a free tech check while you're here. Call 1-800-483-4428 or visit verizon.com/smallbusiness. We got you covered. Verizon Business. Available for select 5G phones. New line device payment agreement and select data plan required. Credit applied to account over agreement term up to 36 months. Terms apply. Offer ends 8/17/2025.
Welcome to Her Extraordinary Life by Design, where we celebrate women who are shaping their lives one extraordinary day at a time. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, self-care coach for women who are ready to make self-care a priority to support them in life and business. Every week, I'll be speaking with inspiring women from various walks of life who will share their personal journeys and will discover how they have fearlessly carved their own paths as business owners, passionately pursuing their dreams and creating a meaningful impact on their communities. So let's get started. Hello, and welcome to Extraordinary Life by Design podcast. I'm your host, Leslie Gaudet, and today we're talking with Debbie Saidyfye. Debbie is a passionate wellness educator, speaker, and founder of Plant Thriving Women, a growing movement dedicated to helping women reclaim their energy, health, and purpose through the power of plant-based living and holistic healing. With a deep understanding of burnout, chronic disease, and the emotional toll of caregiving, she now empowers women, especially those in midlife, to make sustainable lifestyle shifts that lead to vitality, freedom, and thriving. Debbie, I am so excited to welcome you to the show today.
And I am so excited to be here. I'm really honored that you asked me to come and share my wisdom and story with you.
Yeah, well, you have a great story. And I love the way your passion, especially for wellness and holistic healing, really anchors everything that you do. For me, it's clear that your mission isn't just about health. It's about helping women come back to life in a way that feels aligned and sustainable for them. So I want to go back a little bit, though. Can you take us back a little bit and share what led you to this work and what were some of the defining moments that inspired you to create Plant Thriving Women?
Well, it started because I spent 35 plus years in the corporate world. And about 12, 13 years ago, I started to realize that I was burning out. I was feeling like I was on this treadmill, the little hamster wheel that just keeps going. And no matter how hard I was working, I never seemed to be able to get to the end of the pile, get everything done. I was have a demanding job, was working a lot of hours, at least 50 to 60 hours a week. I still have 4 girls. And at the time they were in their teens, and I spent a lot of time shuffling them to dance and other things that they were doing. And I just woke up one day and realized that I didn't know who I was. I had this what is Debbie passionate about? And Debbie's answer was, I have no idea. And at the same time, just around the same time, I started to have some health challenges. Now, I was fortunate, none of them really caused me to need to have doctor intervention, but I knew 2 things. One, that this was probably the tip of the iceberg. And if I didn't do something about it, it was going to get worse. And the other thing that I knew is that this is needing a lifestyle change. And if I didn't make some changes, that things were just going to get worse. And this is a defining moment. I went to a business conference, and Dr. John Gray, who wrote the book, Women Are From Venus, Men Are From Mars, whatever that book, I realized that he was talking about sugar and all the impacts it has. I had no idea that inside of my body was being ravaged by sugar so much. I knew it wasn't good for me. I think most people do, but I didn't realize that it was causing my hormone imbalances, all sorts of other things. And when I found all this out, I decided I needed to break that habit because sugar is addicting. Some people liken it to the power of cocaine. If you can imagine, most of us, thinking about taking cocaine, we wouldn't dare do that. But yet we take in sugar all the time. So I broke the cycle. I found a way to detox my body, break that cycle through natural, I guess, ways, through juicing and eating plants and fruits and vegetables, and I haven't looked back. And what really found my passion was that when I would be taught, eating different things than other people because I was eating plant-based, all of a sudden people are like worried about what I was eating. They could have been eating pizza or a burger. Nobody would have questioned them, but because I was eating something different, they were all concerned. And I started educating those people in my life and realized that I got really lit up when I did. And that's how it all started. And I just got to a point where I knew that this work, this information needed to get out to people, that we don't need to be suffering. We don't need to think that as we age, we're going to have all these chronic diseases and that's part of life. It's not. The whole thing, these chronic diseases, is all about our lifestyle. And food is medicine if you treat it right and have the respect for it. And that's how I got started.
I love that. But you know what? It is a lived experience. And that's where I think, a lot of people today resonate with people who actually have a lived experience they can share. And that's what's fueling what they do. And so your lived experience around, especially food, and your learning of how it was affecting you, your body, and knowing, like you had an inner knowing. I call that the inner canary, where your inner canary is saying, like, Debbie, something needs to change. Like you need to make a change because your lifestyle, the way it's going, is not a sustainable lifestyle for you. And maybe not having that doctor intervention, but it doesn't mean that if you had ignored the prompt, that might not have become your reality later on down the road. So I love the fact that you did that. And then, again, people, it is so funny, like what you were saying. People in your life would look at how you changed your eating habits, and they're not understanding it and thinking that, oh, you're eating like that. It's almost like eating pizza and burgers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with having if that's what you like to eat, but is it good for you? And instead they look at like, oh, well, I think what I'm eating is normal. And yet looking at your healthy, maybe salads and all your plant-based lifestyle, choices, and thinking that is something wrong with Debbie, right? And it's like, no, well, actually there was. Debbie realized that there was an inner knowing that she needed to change her lifestyle. And part of that was what she was eating. And that started to make her feel better. So I love that because it is pretty funny when you have people say to you, like, is something wrong? Is something off? Like, are you okay? And you're wondering, like, what do you mean? And you're eating well, you're taking care of yourself. And also you too, being a mom, especially 4 teenage daughters. I know a few of my friends that grew up with, I have another friend who has 4 teenage daughters, who had 4 teenage daughters. So I can only imagine what that was like. But knowing, girls seem to be a little bit harder than I think boys are in those teenage years when it comes to certain things. So I can only imagine, being a mom, then working all those hours and developing some challenges, and then having an aha moment and realizing, I also have the opportunity to model something for my daughters, right? It's something that you got to model for them. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank
So,
you.
yeah. So you work with women who are navigating burnout, caregivers, and even that chronic exhaustion part. And I feel like we're really totally aligned in that because I think it's almost like this unspoken, like, oh, this is just the way it is. And they're just navigating it. We're just going through the motions, and burnout most of the time the women that I talk to anyways, they don't even really say the word burnout. It's more the symptoms that they talk about. They don't, they'd say I'm overwhelmed or I'm really exhausted or I'm really feeling distracted. Or, I don't feel like I'm feeling a little bit of maybe even thinking, not even saying the words imposter, but feeling like they don't belong in certain rooms, that they're feeling they're questioning their worth, things like that. And these could all be signals that something's off, which is leading to that burnout, or they're in a burnout phase and they don't understand it. So I want to ask you a question around energy because this is something I talk a lot about. What patterns do you see that quietly drain the women that you've worked with or women you've talked to that drains their energy? And what's a simple, sustainable shift that can help them begin to reclaim it?
Well, one of the things that I did a recent survey with my community and I asked them about what were their health challenges. And in my world, dealing with nutrition, I was thinking it was going to be that they want to lose weight, that and yeah, the energy level is always something that I hear about, brain fog, but I was shocked that the number one thing that the women in my community resoundingly wanted to fix was their sleep patterns. They were not having good sleep. And the other thing that they were finding is they have a lot of cravings and they can't stop those cravings. And so those were the two main things. And it's say, well, how does that relate? So you think sleep definitely relates to burnout and exhaustion, but and the whole everything is connected. And that's the guess the beauty and maybe the challenge that we have with health. You can't just fix one thing because everything is connected. But in my humble opinion and my truth, the foundation of it all is what we eat. And if you're not eating good foods, then your body is actually craving these things like the hamburgers and all of those processed foods, which taste really good. And the reason why they're craving them is very shocking. It's because we don't have the nutrients and our body is looking for those nutrients. And that's not the carbohydrates, the fats, and the protein, which everybody talks about. Oh, if I'm feeling hungry, I'm not getting enough protein. Not at all. It's those micronutrients. It's the vitamins, it's the minerals, it's the antioxidants, the antimicrobials, it's the fiber. Those are the things that we're missing that are causing us to have these cravings. And when we're in that shift of really those cravings, guess what that leads to? Hormone imbalance because we're eating foods that we're not meant to be eating, and those hormone imbalances cause sleep imbalances because our sleep and our whole, I guess, rhythm over a 24-hour period, that circadian rhythm, is driven by our hormones. And when our hormones are unbalanced and our stress levels are high, which is kind of, we have chronic stress in this world. We're always stressed out. We're always like, I got to get all these things done at work. I got to do more with less, like they let go of a whole bunch of people because of expenses and then they expect you to do more. And how many people can relate to that? And it's the fact of the world. And I've talked to so many people that were kind of middle managers, which is where I was. I was a senior director that, those VPs and the people in the C-suite are expecting you to do the work. So they are funneling stuff down to you. And the people reporting to you can't do the work. So you get stuck in the middle. And that's why I worked 50, 60, 70 hours a week is because of that. And yeah, you get to this point where you're exhausted. And for me, I was thinking it was because I was working so much. That's the reason. And I didn't realize that what I was eating was also playing into that problem because I wasn't getting the nutrients into my body that I needed. I was eating those. Now I still eat some processed foods, but very little now. And the processed foods are really, really the big culprit of why we have so much sugar, salt, and oil. Those are we crave them. because they're designed for us to crave them. They're designed for us to become addicted to them. And yeah, so the first thing I would say to anyone, if you want to start reclaiming your energy, is look at what you're eating. What's on your plate? How are you eating? Are you eating when you're stressed? Eating while you're working. I did that a lot. I mean, that was kind of a regular thing for me. And look at, maybe doing some kind of a detox, some program to get yourself started on reclaiming your food and getting off those processed foods that are really, they call us because we don't have enough nutrients and because they're designed for us to become addicted to them.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I also know that the more you eat of the things that you're not, that really aren't that good for you, the more it is, the more that you crave them.
Mhm.
So it's learning to, it's not like you have to say you can't have something once in a while, but it's like when it becomes your everyday that you reach for a bag of chips or a candy bar or cookies or, burgers and fries through the drive-through or pizza, when that becomes the norm, that's when I mean, we have to really think about it. I always look at it from the perspective of how it makes me feel. Like if I eat something, if it's a fast food, especially when we're traveling and we're having to go through the drive-through a little bit more, and I've now become a little bit more discerning in what I will say yes to through the drive-through. But before it would be like, just grab a burger and some fries, and I would always feel like icky, kind of. And it's not that not saying that their food is awful. It's just that my body, what is, I don't usually do that. So when I notice it when I do get into those times where we are traveling and then we're going to the drive-through and then I'm actually introducing things to my body that I don't typically eat. I start to feel it. So it's kind of like that indicator. But when that is your norm, and you do feel like, oh, I do feel sluggish all the time. It's really like, okay, I like how you were saying, what's behind the motivation to eat whatever it is that you're eating? 'Cause sometimes it could be stress related. Then that's why you use food that way. So one of the things I love about your approach is that it's not just about what's on the plate. It's about how food supports the way we want to feel and how we want to live our lives. So when I want to go just a little bit deeper here with how you work with your clients. When someone is, especially like you were just saying, looking at what's on your plate, what you're eating, what's the motivation behind it. How do you help women move from seeing food as like, especially to you've talked about being a mom of 4 teenage daughters when you were working so many hours. So that must have been challenging at times too, to make sure that there was, food available for them that was good for them. So, especially for those moms who are listening to this podcast right now and they're wondering, like they are, like, some women I know have small kids still and they're running their businesses. And sometimes just life gets so busy. And like you were saying, I was driving my girls around to this recital, to that recital, to whatever their own lifestyle choices were. So, how do you help women move from seeing food as like that task, right, to seeing it as an ally in alignment with their energy, with their purpose, with their lifestyle, if that makes sense?
Yeah. And I think it depends on where they are at in their life and what their health is like. Now, if you have chronic disease, I am
Mhm.
going to say that you probably need to make a pretty quick shift in your lifestyle. I have a client of mine who had some issues that were kind of showing up on her blood work. She had high potassium levels, which means something was wrong, and we were looking to get to the root of it. And it was something that she didn't really pay that much attention to it. And unfortunately, as she was making gradual changes and eating better one bite at a time and just kind of making those small changes, she ended up having kidney failure and going on dialysis. She spent 4 weeks in the hospital in ICU. This happened 9 months ago, and she's still recovering. Now, she is recovering, But once you get to that tipping point where you become into this 5-alarm blaze for your health crisis, it's really hard to, it takes a long time to rebuild and do that. So if you have a chronic disease, you really need to pay attention and do something now. And if you are under doctor's care and they are giving you all the medications, those can make you feel pretty crappy too and can drain your energy because they're toxic for our body. And yes, they make you feel better for your symptoms. But I would really urge you to get to the root cause of what's causing your chronic disease. And 90% of our chronic disease, including cancers, are lifestyle related. There's about 10% that are genetic. Most of them are lifestyle. And there's very few chronic diseases that we cannot reverse. But if you're in that space, you need to take it serious and do something fairly quickly and really make those changes. If you're just wanting to eat better and it's more about prevention and feeling better, especially if you're in midlife, you're getting into perimenopause and, you want to lessen those symptoms so that you don't have to do something drastic or you're missing out on life because you're feeling not very well all the time with your energy and everything. I would say that you really just need to start adding in good foods. And if you start adding in making those simple, sustainable changes, you are going to be the role model for your kids. And they will maybe not follow along right away, but they will follow along. And there's a lot of things you can do to bring your family on board with the lifestyle. Involve them in cooking. And, today's world, so many people don't cook. And it's really important because if you're relying on what's in the grocery store on the shelves, those processed foods, a lot of them will tell you they're healthy, but they're not. You really have to look carefully and read your ingredients so carefully. So just start adding in some good foods. Instead of having boxed cereal for breakfast, have some overnight oats. It takes you 10 to 15 minutes to make your week's worth of overnight oats, and you've got them. You can grab and go from the fridge. And it's really about arming yourself with a plan beforehand, because I do it too. If I'm working and I get to 6 o'clock at night and I say, okay, it's time to stop working. Now I want to eat. And I go to the fridge and I don't have any plan, then I'm like, going to grab something I probably shouldn't. And for me, that's pasta, and if I have a plan and know what I'm going to do and maybe have some prep done ahead of time, it's really easy. And I do a cooking segment on Fridays. Actually, I'm going to be doing my cooking segment. And it's all about for women who are too tired to cook, which I hear a lot of. There's so many simple things that you can do to make delicious foods to help regain your energy. And it's like a vicious circle, right? If you're too tired to cook, so you eat those processed foods, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy that keeps you on this hamster wheel going towards the brick wall. When you hit that brick wall, that burnout, Leslie, I know you know all about burnout. When you hit that brick wall, how do you regain from that? It's a big thing. And so you just need to make one step at a time and make some simple, sustainable changes to your lifestyle. And the more you make, the better it is. I have a quote. Well, it's not my quote, but I love the quote. A journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. And all you need to do is make that one step. And so for the women that I work with, it's about taking that one step, and we'll just see where that takes us, because I had no idea that when I started my journey to break the cycle of sugar addiction that I was on, that was going to lead to where I am today, to finding my mission, my passion in the world, to really help people understand that food is medicine.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I want to talk about what you do outside of I love the idea of the community that you have where you're teaching women that you can find ways to actually love to cook. Like it's like falling in love with cooking for yourself again. And especially I'm sure you've probably come across some empty nesters. So that can also become hard too because they've been so used to cooking for the family. And when it just now becomes maybe just themselves or themselves and their spouse and like, okay, so how do we bring that down? Because, for a while, it was funny when I would see my mom, this was years ago, but I remember when she would cook and I would say, "Who are you cooking for?" Because there's just, you now in the house and she'd be making these big meals and it was just having to get used to dialing it back a little bit. So I love that you do that. Now, one of the things that you do, which I love, is that you host incredibly impactful summits. And I know community is a huge part of your vision. So, how have summits helped you not only reach more women, but also foster a real sense of connection and belonging?
Yeah, I started with when I had a goal. So I have a goal to reach 1,000,000 or more women in the next 10, well, it's 9 years now. It was 10 years. And when I started to look at that goal, I didn't have a lot of people in my community, maybe just my friends and some of my colleagues. I really needed to figure out how am I going to do this? And it's really hard to think, how do you build a community? And so what I started to do is to engage people who were experts in their field. And I actually started with cancer and I did a summit on cancer because I wanted to bring that message to more people who have cancer, that you don't necessarily have to go on conventional treatment alone. You should find the root cause, and what you eat is going to influence how you do. And most oncologists will tell you just eat something, just get the calories in you. It doesn't matter what you eat. And they are not nutritionists. They don't know. They know what they're taught at school, which is very little, if any, nutrition. And so we need to get that out. So that's where I started. And I also picked that because my daughter is a childhood cancer survivor. And the more I learn about it, the more our food is part of the reason why some of these children are getting cancer. It's the whole food production and everything. So I know I'm getting a little off track here, but I really just want to bring good information. I have met so many incredible women who are about helping women with various parts of their health and wellness, like yourself, Leslie. And that's what I do the summits for. It's been a great way for me to increase my community, but also to reach out to communities of other women who also have the passion to help women to really step into their own greatness. And I'm going to go back to what you said at the beginning: playing small, having imposter syndrome, having burnout, being the people pleaser, doing everything for everybody first and putting yourself at the back of the line. And I hear this one: I'm not even in the line. Forget it.
Mhm.
Not at the back of the line. I'm not in the line. So, all of the beautiful women that are really helping to inspire other women, that we have this greatness in us as women. We have such incredible chemistry, such incredible brains, such incredible things that we do. We have the knowing. We're very much about community. And we're the people as women that are going to foster the change we need in this world to keep our earth healthy or get it back to health. And so these summits are an incredible way to reach more and more people, just as you're doing with your podcast. Summit is another way to reach more women, to really get the message and the inspiration that we can do it. We have to stop. We've been taught to play small. We've been taught to be people pleasers, and we really need to start honoring ourselves, stepping into ourselves, and really know that we have the greatness in us. All women have the greatness in them. It's just they've been taught to put it way deep inside and not bring it out.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that because I think, again, for me, I always say this, I've said this multiple times, is I feel that community is a self-care tool because we're part of something together. We don't feel like we're going through it alone. I love the fact that you started with cancer, something that it touches the lives of many and it can be very destructive. And
Mhm.
so bringing, awareness around how, like, what you eat is really important so that your experience going through your treatment can be that much better. I mean, because I can't imagine what it must feel like to go through something like that, but then to not have like at least part of your life where it can be maybe a little bit easier on you and helping you as through your experience, but also educating other women because I feel it takes I feel like it takes a village. Like, when you hear the term, like, they say it takes a village to raise a child, and I've been at weddings where they've asked us if we're going to support the couple. And I truly believe that that's important. Like, it does take a village to help us raise our families, for us to be out in the world and to doing the things that we do. And I feel like that's where the community piece comes in. Like, you don't have to go through life alone. And so having your summits and bringing women in to talk about their experience. And like you were saying on the podcast, that's the same thing that I'm doing here is I wanted to make sure, and as what you're doing too, is to make sure that we feel like we have a place where we're understood, like we're seen, that we feel understood, that we have that connection piece and we can support each other and we don't have to feel like we're doing things by ourselves and that other people get us and we can be poured into and learn from. I just really feel like community is such a huge present that we can give to ourselves by going out there and putting ourselves in spaces where we can get poured into and where we can actually support others. Because,
Yeah.
that's the saying goes, like, I mean, when you help somebody else, especially if you're down and you don't feel good about your life, when you do something for someone else, that takes your mind off of your own troubles, but it makes you feel good to help somebody else. And that's what I think community does.
Yeah. And I want to just finish being very honored that I was working with a group. I've been coaching a group of women who are going through a nervous system regulation certification course. And they had their final retreat where they finished and did their test, if you will, and graduated from the program. And although I wasn't part of the program, I got to learn all about what they were doing. And what community does is it helps us to co regulate. And that co-regulation. So if you are down, so if you are in burnout, you are in that spot of, if you think of the Winnie the Pooh and Eeyore and how sad and lonely Eeyore was and dejected he sounded. When you're in that state, one of the easiest ways to bring yourself out is to co-regulate with somebody else to bring you up, just to bring your nervous system up a little bit, because our nervous system actually controls 80% of our body, and then that brain reacts to how our nervous system feels. So if we're sitting in that what's called dorsal and feeling like or like we're really sad, we're burnt out, we can't get off the couch, we know we should be doing things, but we just can't seem to get it done. Co-regulation, being in community is the best way to do that. And one of the things I also learned, which I think is beautiful, is by sharing your experience with other women. Yes, you're vulnerable, but what you're doing is you're showing other women that they are not alone, that, I'm sure there's so many people who can relate to Leslie, to your story. There's women that can relate to my story and know that they are not alone. This is not something, a journey that they have to feel they have to travel on their own. And so this is really important. And the last thing I want to say, because community also can help us with our food. I grew up in this world where I was told that I needed to be super mom. I needed to do everything for my kids. I needed to be like this tower of somebody to do all this stuff for my kids and be able to do it myself and to not reach out and get help because otherwise you weren't super mom if you didn't do that. And that is such a destructive way to think of our lives that we have to be this super mom that's, the could do the all the entertaining and look after the kids and make beautiful meals and work and do everything and raise, amazing kids and, straight A students and all this stuff. And I was like, my friends would be bragging about all the grades their kids are bringing home. And I'm like, well, my kids are, what's wrong with my kids? They're not these super kids. But you know what? Now I realize that my kids are just good people, and that's what counts. And some of those straight A students now, fast forward 10, 15 years, are really struggling in their life with all sorts of issues. So all this to say, break down that superwoman kind of ideal and be in community. And yes, maybe if we were in community more, this is where I want to go with my community is maybe I don't want to cook because I'm not a great cook. But, my husband's from a place in Africa, in West Africa, and they are in community. The women help raise all the kids, that village approach. They don't have to cook all the meals all themselves every day. They rely on each other so much. And so we need to get back to that. And, men have the old boys club. They do still have this network that they use to work together, and us as women need to find a way to be in community to help each other out because that is where we're all going to benefit by all of the superpowers that we all have collectively. So, yes, community is huge.
Yeah. Well, I have actually loved talking with you today. Thank you so much for agreeing to spend time with me and sharing your passion for wellness and your story and the powerful work that you're doing. Like I said, I found it was like a unique approach for me to have you on here because I thought you are building community through your summit work and through your Plant Thriving Women community and helping women learning how to really fall in love with food that sustains them, that helps them live, a thriving life. We all want to live a life that we love, but a lot of that isn't just about what we can get. Like it's not just about the achievements, not just about the house or the cars or the money or all the fancy trips or the clothes. If material things are what drives you, or it's not just about things like that. It's more for me personally. I love to collect experiences. My husband and I, the past 5 years, have been traveling more, and we've now landed in Mexico, and we've been here since July of 2024. But for us, it was more about collecting the experiences, the meeting new people, and learning about and getting ourselves inserted into the community. That's why when we live where we live now, we're in where the locals live. So we're not down where all of the expats live or all of the touristy areas. We want to be a part of, and this is being a part of the community. So I love that you do that. And the way I believe that you blend nutrition, mindset, and community into something like what you're doing into your approach is such a gift. So, Debbie, thank you so much for being here with me today.
Thank you. I love that you're working on spreading the community and that aspect because I think I've already said it. I really am very passionate about community is everything. And for your listeners, yeah, I mean, what you're doing is amazing. And us working together it's the best thing. Thank
Yeah,
you so much for
absolutely.
having me.
Oh, thank you. And to our listeners, if you would like to connect with Debbie and learn more about her summits, her coaching, her upcoming offerings, all about her Plant Thriving Women, you can check the show notes for all of her information. Remember, creating meaningful change often starts with one small shift. And when you surround yourself with the right support, those shifts become even more sustainable. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep believing, and keep designing your extraordinary life one day at a time. Thank you for joining me on Her Extraordinary Life by Design. I hope you've been inspired and empowered by the incredible stories shared on this show. If you enjoyed this episode and the conversations we've had, I would greatly appreciate if you could take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback and support mean the world to me, and it will help others discover the podcast and join our empowering community. Remember to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Together, we can continue to learn from these amazing women, uncover their extraordinary journeys, and be motivated to create our own lives by design. Thank you again for tuning in. Until next time, stay empowered and keep shaping your extraordinary life one day at a time.
This episode is brought to you by Bluehost. You might not be a tech genius, but you want the website for your business to crush it. Thankfully, Bluehost makes it easy. Customized, optimized, and monetized. Everything exactly how you want with AI. Your site can be up within minutes, and the search engine tools even help you get more site visitors. Whatever your passion project is, set it up with Bluehost. With their 30-day money-back guarantee, what have you got to lose? Head to Bluehost.com to start now.
Hey guys, it's your girl Yasia. I want to share some really exciting news with you. I just dropped my first ever single, Spell on You, off my upcoming debut EP, Devil's Room, on RM Records. It's simply devilicious. Check out Spell on You wherever you listen to music. Bye for now.
I never thought I'd fall in love like this. It's time to close the chapter, but I think I needed this.
Electricast.